Welcome to Play by Players, an MLSPA podcast. This show is brought to you by the players and is all about the players, both past and present, who have plied their trade in MLS. You'll hear about each player's journey into the game, their careers and life after the game, on the field and off. It's all on the table. Now here's your host, former MLS player, Bobby Boswell.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Play by Players. Today we are joined by one of the local young talents in MLS, who has played almost his entire career here in the great city of Houston, Texas. He has played over 125 MLS games for the Houston Dynamo and over 180 professional games total. He has an impressive goal and assist rate in MLS. Y'all know I love the numbers. He's scoring a goal or an assist in every fifth game that he's played in. He is the pride and joy of El Campo, Texas. Please welcome to the podcast, Jose Guillermo Rodríguez, better known as Memo Rodríguez.
Awesome. Thank you, Bobby. Obviously, it's always a pleasure to speak to you guys, and hopefully, we have fun with this conversation.
Yeah, and for those that don't know, there's two important things you need to know about Memo right off the bat. The first is that I've gotten to see Memo grow up, and that he was a young man. Maybe I'll call him a boy in the Dynamo Youth Academy when I played here, and then he was not just a teammate practicing up with the first team. He later went on to become a first team member and then scored goals against me when I got traded to DC. So the second thing about Memo is he's a part of this homegrown generation. What that means is he didn't go to college. He came straight out of high school. So a lot of times in the format, we do go through college and high school and things like that. So for Memo, it was a little harder to get some dirt on him, but he's such a nice guy that I don't think I have any dirt to get on him today. But Memo, I talked a lot there. The whole thing about you being a youth in the youth academy, we'll get to that. But when you hear me saying that you scored against me, like, what is that? Does that bring you a lot of happiness?
Yeah, I think a little bit. I mean, obviously not for you, but I do remember scoring the header in DC at RFK. It was a raining game. The field was, drenched. And
y'all beat us down, man. Y'all beat us down that day.
Yeah, I think we scored 3 goals in like 10, 15 minutes. And you guys were down. But I do remember that game clearly, and I remember the header I scored against you guys.
Yeah, you got up, man. It was like I said, man. He used to be this little guy, and then he hopped up and good snap header. So that's in the past. We're not going to focus on that. How you got me benched for the rest of the year. I mentioned El Campo. For those that don't know, people listen to this all over. And, that's in South Texas. I'm very familiar with it. My wife grew up or went to high school in Port Lavaca.
Okay.
That's a real hardworking culture. I know you come from a family. You have three younger brothers. Talk to me a little bit about, what it was like growing up. I consider that South Texas. I know it's not. We're going to go into Rio Grande Valley later. That's really South Texas. But
exactly.
Talk to me a little bit about El Campo.
Yeah, I mean, it's a super small city. It's more known for football. Our high school is the Ricebirds. I don't even know still to this day what a Ricebird is. I mean, obviously, maybe for rice, it's a bird that likes rice. But to this day, I don't know why we have that mascot. But yeah, it's a small town. It's something, that everybody around, there's neighbors, everybody knows each other. The only sport Boys and Girls Club had every sport: swimming, soccer, football, but they're all recreational. There was nothing really competitive, so it was more like play with your friends, have a fun time, and just having that curricular activity to do with your friends and family, because you could also play with your family as well. I played with my cousins growing up in the recreational soccer part of it, because I never played no other sport. I wanted to get into baseball a little bit. But I don't think it was for me. I just wanted to try a different sport. There was a period of time where I was like soccer, and it was all fun and games at that point. But I asked my mom, hey, can I try baseball? Maybe it's something different and maybe I like it and I'm good at it. But she said no, and I was like, fine, I'll stick to soccer, and just kept playing soccer. But there's really not much to do. I mean, other than, spend time with friends and family. I mean, our closest mall is either an hour south, more to Victoria or an hour south to Sugarland, which was so we did all our shopping in Victoria, or we had to come to Sugarland. So we really didn't have much to do in El Campo.
Yeah, well, first of all, I think you would have been a great baseball player because you're so strong with both legs, right? A lot of power and hitting, but we won't bring that up to mom.
Yeah.
The rice birds. You asked the question, I have the answer. Because El Campo, it's a big rice. You see all those rice farms when you're driving down there. They got those towers everywhere, and rice birds. I think they come out of like the Philippines and in Asia where the rice fields are, and it's a specific type of bird. In El Campo, they literally say any bird that hangs out by a rice field and eats rice is considered a rice bird. So I think it's pretty cool. It's like it's a real diverse thing. I always go into history. I won't bore anyone with the history of El Campo, and it's pretty cool. It's got a cool history with the railroads and the connection.
Exactly.
Get to New
So I
York.
know a little bit about the railroads a little bit.
It's a cool town that you're from. And I don't think people realize when we talk about it is small, but it does have some cool history. So let's talk back. You brought your mom up. We're gonna focus a lot on her because she's a very important part of your journey. But as far as your brothers go, I know that I know your story, and that there's a little bit, I don't say resentment, but talk to people about your brothers. Everyone always says, well, you were a great soccer player. What about your brothers? Talk to everyone a little bit about, are your brothers soccer players? I know you get that all the time.
Yeah. So growing up, we all played soccer. We had 2 left footers on the team and then 2 right footers. The 2 left footers are the younger ones. They all played soccer. We all played at the Boys and Girls Club growing up, played with family and friends, like I mentioned. They wanted to they had to stop at a certain point because my mom would drive me obviously to Houston or to other places to train competitively. But they still played in like Sunday leagues with my cousins and stuff like that. But they did love the game. They did want to be professional soccer players. Um, at the end of the day, it was a little bit tougher for them than for my journey it was tough, right? But for them, I think it was a little bit tougher, just because my stepdad worked and my mom was caring for me and my brothers, driving wise. And my grandma also lived with us, so it was tough. My grandma doesn't drive, so it was a little bit tough. So even if my brother that's next to me wanted to go play in Houston, it was going to be real tough because of the scheduling that I had, um, when I was playing competitively. So, but they do love the game. They do play now. They play in Sunday leagues with my cousins back home in El Campo. So, when I have time, I go watch the game and support them because at the end of the day, they supported me in a way, not the way they wanted to, but they did support me and I'm very appreciative of them as well.
Yeah, that's cool, man. I'm the youngest of 4 boys, so I get it. I'm on the other end of that, but
Yeah.
But you kind of hinted at your mom driving you. I think you kind of underplay that. The round trip from El Campo to Houston, it's where the Dynamo trained, and before we get into the academy, I want to talk about the Houstonians. But it's about 140 miles round trip, and those programs require sometimes 4 or 5 days a week. In getting ready for this, I couldn't imagine doing that now with the price of gas, but in general, just how big of a drive that was. That's a huge commitment. I know the other famous guy in Texas that his parents drove him like crazy was Clint Dempsey. I'm kind of reminded of that story, when I hear about you and your mom and the commitment she made getting you to the city.
Yeah, I mean it was super tough. I think there was a point where 9 to 10 years old where me and my mom, more my mom made a decision is like if I wanted to be competitive, if I wanted to grow, as a player, as a person, then I had to get out of the small town where we were just playing recreational soccer, and it was really not getting us anywhere, development wise. Obviously, it was fun and games playing with family and friends that you knew from the town, but it was a big decision, obviously, for me and for my mom because she knew that she was going to leave three kids behind with my grandma, and they were gonna they were younger, so at that point they were not really, hey, like, why are you taking Memo to these games and why are you not taking me? So from the age of 9 all the way to the age of 17, 18 years old. She drove me an hour and a half back every day, 4 times a week. And then sometimes you had a game on the Saturday, which was 5, and sometimes there was a doubleheader Saturday, Sunday. Then it should be six times a week. And she did that for 10 plus years, and I can't thank her enough, to this day. I mean, she doesn't miss a game at all at home. So for her doing that for me, and leaving my brothers behind, and obviously making a big decision, for both of us. At the end, it paid off, and it was something that I always keep close to my heart. It's actually pretty funny. When I first signed before Dom left, I had a meeting with Chris Canetti at the George R. Brown, and it was just a meeting. Hey, like, Memo, we got a meeting with Chris Canetti, the owner and president. So meet me here, like, where the old offices were at. It was like it was small, but I know it was at the George R. Brown, and
Yeah, yeah,
you
yeah, yeah.
know, we had the meeting. Everything went well. I knew it went well. I got to the car, and my mom was like, what happened? What they tell you? And I was like, Mom, like, they said that maybe wait a year or two, that maybe I have to go to college and maybe develop. And she was like, what are you talking about? And then I was like, no, Mom, like we did it. We made it. She started crying. I started crying as well. And it was a bittersweet moment for both of us. And we both accomplished it. I say both of us because, without her sacrifice, obviously with my hard work on the pitch, and her sacrifices, we're both able to celebrate that moment for each other.
Yeah, you got a little ahead of me, which that happens. The "we did it" thing is awesome. I think that's so cool. We were talking tattoos before you got on, and I was, that would be something I'd get tattooed if I don't have
Yeah.
anything cool. I don't have any cool sayings like that in my life with my parents. Well, let's before we get into the academy and then against the first team. I talked about the Houstonians. I always joke that these clubs they claim these guys, but I mean, are they allowed to claim you?
Yeah, 100%. I mean,
Okay.
they for sure do. Um, I think I joined them when I was U13 or U12, if I'm not mistaken, and then ever since I did my whole club, with them. And even there was guys before me that whenever their pre-academy was around, so it was the U15s, and they would only train on Wednesdays. I remember this clearly. So there was already players from our club team already training with the Dynamo and the Dynamo Academy since they trained at Delmar, since they trained before Delmar, and there was guys on our club already training with them, and I was still just training with our team, and I was like, hey, maybe I want to go train with the Dynamo Academy, one day, or the pre-academy. So they definitely do have the recognition, and that status of
Yeah.
them claiming me. Obviously, I did like 8 years with the Historian before I joined the Dynamo Academy.
Well, for those, the way that I do this show, we always talk about notable alums. By the way, you are a notable alum for El Campo, so congratulations. And
Thank
then
you.
for that program, they claim you. I told you that. There's also Uvaldo Luna, I guess, went to Monterrey. You had Bronco Ramirez with Cruz Azul, Armando Castillo with Ticos Guadalajara, Javier Betancourt with Pachuca. I got the Pachuca shirt out today. Josue Soto and Navajoba, who were Dynamo guys. You had Christian Lucitero, who's now with the Dynamo, and then Sebastian Ibiaga, who was with several MLS clubs now at LAFC. There's the Montero brothers. There's a ton of guys that came out of that program, which really kind of highlights just how impressive soccer is in Houston. And for a lot of people, they don't realize, or maybe they do realize, it's a huge, like melting pot full of people. Talk a little bit about what it was like playing with such a diverse group of guys growing up.
Yeah, it was good. I mean, I think so my best friend, his dad, his name is Dennis Lewis, and he was my coach at Histonians, other with the other few coaches. And he and two other dads, they took me under their wing. So some days, my mom maybe couldn't make it on time, or maybe it was going to be a little bit late to the game. they offered to open their houses for me, and those relationships I have to this day. I keep up in touch with those guys, and obviously met my best friend and my best friend's dad and his family. I lived with them my first year, or my third year, when I came back from loan from RGB, um, just so I could save up money, maybe to purchase a house or live in an apartment. When I saved up enough money, so I stayed a whole year with them, and those guys, like I said, those are relationships that I'll never forget, and to this day I still talk to them. And we still have family events, friend events that everybody goes to, and obviously different players went different paths. Where they're not working, or they're doing other things, but they have successful careers in what they're doing. But it's just fun that soccer in general brings joy to everybody, and it can actually we have a great relationship with everybody.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. And I always say I stayed with people playing growing up. I had to go stay at other people's houses because you get to a level where if you want to make that sacrifice, sometimes you have to do that. And I feel like that's really cool for you because they get to share in your success, right? They helped you achieve that goal that you wanted, and so they can kind of live vicariously through you. So that's really neat. Um, let's talk a little bit about the Dynamo Academy. Um, for just I remember I would help out with the academy when I came back and I retired. I'd still go out there, and it's there's so many kids, right? It's really hard
Yeah.
to show well, and you have guys that some days, like you, right? You come in from really far, and then other days some guys don't make it. So if I remember correctly, you kind of played like a six, like a you were the holding guy there, and I feel like there were a lot of guys on that team that ended up signing that you played with, whether they were your age group or not. They ended up signing MLS contracts at one point or another. And I feel like you maybe didn't get the credit that you deserve for the work that you did. Do you think that's an accurate statement, early on?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's a little tough because I was smaller. I would say also as well, and I was always a guy that loved to work hard and try to show my potential. And obviously, the goal was always to sign a professional contract. Maybe there were just other players on their radar already that they were focusing on, and maybe that's why. But at the end of the day, I had a grind for everything that I have, and it's something that I like doing. So for me, it was just work hard every day, and being able to get that chance, and obviously the reserve league was around. So whenever I got caught up to that, it was maybe, hey, now he's on the radar, and maybe he gets a spot, or maybe he gets a chance to sign a MLS contract whenever he's ready.
Yeah, and I remember the coaches when we'd watch those reserve games. And that's the biggest thing was you had Francisco Navaskova, you had Brian Salazar. These are just guys that good players, right? They're good players, but they would have moments of brilliance, right, where they dribble everybody and score a goal or get a shot off.
Yeah.
And the issue with those guys, which is kind of a testament to you, right, is they. I remember them saying, like, with Memo, we know what we get, and we get the same product every time. With these other guys, like, yeah, sometimes they do something brilliant, but then they disappear for the whole game, and so you just never know. And it's interesting because those guys ended up signing contracts, pretty early, and they kind of fizzled out. And in your case, right, well, before I get to that, let's talk about the academy. You had a ton of success there. You play over 80 games. I looked at your scoring record because I care about numbers. You have the same, I not forget assists, right? You had the same exact scoring rate, even from a holding midfielder position, right? You score almost every 5 games. When you're doing all this, right, you start getting called up to train with the first team. Those are the games that we just talked about.
Yeah.
Did you have, were you self-doubting yourself at that point, or were you pretty confident in your abilities? Like, I can do this, based on your experiences with the first team.
Yeah, I mean, I think there were sometimes there was a little bit of doubt. Obviously, there was guys getting signed before me, like you mentioned, and I'm a guy that likes to work hard no matter what. If I'm on the bench or starting, and for me, my only goal was to become a professional soccer player. there was also a point where, James Clarkson, I was like, hey, like, I want to sign a pro contract. Like, I'm not going to go to college to go play. And he was like, okay, we'll just wait and see. We speak to Chris Kennedy or Dom at that time to see what they think. And obviously it was, I think at the end of the day, it was my job to, keep working hard and try to be noticed, that I can be a difference maker in what on the pitch. And at the end of the day, it worked out.
Well,
Obviously,
before we get to that, I mean, who do you remember? I always ask guys this: do you remember somebody that made it hard, or that somebody that really helped you? Like, I know Ricardo was there, right? I know you had some really good guys to look up to. Excuse me. Do you remember anyone really helping you? Or I always give the guys the opportunity. Sometimes there were guys, I always say Mike Pedke made it really hard on me
yeah,
when I was coming up, but I'm grateful for people
yeah.
giving me that challenge. I mean, what do you remember from the early on, the veteran guys ahead of you?
Yeah, I think it was, a little bit of like Brian Ching, he was still around playing for the team. There was times, where I would get the ball and I do like something fancy. And I can remember clearly that Brad, he grabbed me like around the neck, kind of, or like pulled my jersey and tugged me, and I forgot what he said to me. I mean, it wasn't something nice either. So I don't remember exactly what happened, but I tried to like pop it over him in a small sided game. And obviously those guys, and they're working for their job and trying to provide for their family and put food on their table. And there was a point, where it was like, whoa, like maybe this is, a little bit too much, and maybe it's too fast for me to become a professional soccer player right now. But there was few moments and few tackles where, you had David Horse at times, you had him call him full speed. Um, Eric Bruner.
He's a big dude, man.
Yeah, Eric Bruner. He was there. I don't know if you remember him.
Yeah.
Um,
We're gonna talk about Twitch later. He's at Twitch now.
yeah. So he was good friends with Eric Alexander, and that's how
Okay.
I knew about him working at Twitch. But there were some guys that would scare you on the pitch. I remember, I actually, when I was in the academy, I remember we played inter squad scrimmage with the first team, and I remember when Jeff Cameron was still on the team, he crushed one of our forwards, and he said some bad stuff, and I was like, "Oh, I'm not getting close to that guy. There's no way I'm getting close to that guy." But he like wiped out one of my teammates, and he got it onto his face. The kid's on the ground. He got into his face and said something to him, and I was like, man, this is the real deal. Like, this is the next level.
Yeah, man. I mean, all those guys you said I would consider them all winners, right? Brad's a winner,
Yeah.
Brian's a winner, Jeff's a winner. So I don't mean that you have to
No.
get in some guy's face and grab him by the
Yeah.
neck, but it's more about that competitive nature where
Exactly.
you got to bring it every day, because these guys, like that goes back to my compliment to you, right? Was you can't just have a great play every once in a while and expect to be there. You see how it is. It's so hard.
Yeah.
MLS is more competitive now than when I played, meaning you got to bring it every single day, every game, or there's a guy waiting that's just as capable. He might do something a little different than you. He might not be as good on one side, but better on the other. And that's the league that you're in now. So I understand that.
Yeah, exactly.
So let's, we kind of talked a little bit about, Mom, we made it. So you sign, you're the sixth guy that signed a homegrown contract. There's only been 15, I believe, as of this date. Tyler Derrick, we talked about, Francisco Navascova, Alex Dixon, Josue Soto, and then Brian Salazar. When you signed, only one of those guys is on the Dynamo at that point, right? Everyone else is either, I think Francisco might have been down in Colombia. Alex Dixon, I think, was it Rochester or maybe, or one of the USL teams. Josue was with USL. And I'm pretty sure Brian Salazar, who goes by Slime Poppy now as a rapper, he's completely out of soccer. So when you're looking at it, is the goal like, I don't really care what happened to those guys because I'm not them? Or are you looking at this as like, man, this is a big risk? I mean, it sounds like you were all in. Like college wasn't even an option. You were just like,
Yeah.
I'm going.
Yeah, I mean, I was all in, but there was, just around like the Dynamo, I would ask like, hey, what happened to these guys? So I don't do that. What they did wrong, and maybe they didn't do wrong, but maybe they didn't. The coach didn't like what they did, or their habits, or anything like that. So at the beginning, I was a little nervous, because usually at that period, there was young guys signing, but they wouldn't play, they get loaned out, and then maybe they don't have a contract anymore. Maybe they go somewhere else and try to figure out how to play. So I try to do what those guys maybe didn't do right, and try to do it right for me. Obviously, I just kept grinding, and just work hard, and do everything I can, so I can get a chance. Obviously, I think I did enough. Obviously, I'm here speaking to you today, so
Yeah, yeah.
but no, but at the beginning I was a little nervous, obviously, because like you said, I knew that those guys weren't part of the Dynamo organization anymore, so I didn't want to do anything what they did.
Yeah, and I'm very critical of this part because I love, all those guys I just said, like I knew where they were, and I still talk to them. I do feel like this industry, it's cutthroat, right? And there's this, you were kind of like in this class, and think about a lot of those guys that signed after you, right? Bradley, and they didn't like,
To
I
the
mean, they
best,
fizzled,
yeah.
they fizzled out immediately. And there was this romance around signing guys to be, to say, oh, we've got homegrown talent coming through. And like, Houston's a hotbed, man. There's so many ballers. We went through those guys playing, not just in MLS, but playing in Mexico. There were guys in that Houstonians club that down in South America that I didn't name. So there's a bunch of ballers. It's just, how do you get those guys to get to the Dynamo and produce? And I would say you're probably looking around the league, you're probably one of the more successful homegrown guys in that, a lot of guys sign, they might have a year or two where they play or they're there, but there are some really great success stories in Alphonso Davies. And, now I'm thinking of like Cade Cowell, some of these guys that are
Yeah.
now making a name for themselves. But I feel like you're one of the more successful ones, not just with the Dynamo, but with the league. And that's a testament to you. But I'm also critical of the program of like, hey, let's pull this guy out of his opportunity to do something else, college related. And then a year later, he buys a car. They don't educate him on that. And then he's out of a job with, not to pick on one guy, but he's got a really nice Camaro that he can't afford anymore. So,
Yeah.
um, let me ask you this. You come into a locker room as an academy guy, right? What's it like for you the day that you walk in, and instead of having like a shared locker in the other room, or maybe like some locker that doesn't have your name on it, to now this is Rodríguez, this is Memo's locker now?
Yeah, I mean, it was a little bit nerve-wracking just walking into those locker rooms and seeing all the guys in the position that you want to be in. I try to ask a lot of questions. I know you've probably heard Kalen Carr ask, say, I like to ask questions. I mean, I was nervous to ask those questions because I don't know if I was going to get a smart remark back, or like, piss off kid, you're not even on the team or anything like that. But it was fun. I mean, you definitely grew a little bit as a player. I knew that I have a little story that so whenever it was me, Bradley, and two other academy kids, and Tim Haley was a goalkeeper coach. So we're going to the hot tub. And we're going to the hot tub, and the two guys get in front of me to go to the hot tub, and I'm changing. I was about to go follow the guys, so they're in the hot tub, and I see Tim just walk into the hot tub, and he absolutely rips the academy guys. What are you guys doing? Not in those words. You guys do not play on the weekend. Like, what are y'all doing? Y'all gonna go like wash the laundry for those guys so they can be ready for the weekend. Like, you guys have no part in this. You cannot go in there. You cannot go in the medical room. You cannot get massages or anything like that. And I was halfway there, and then I had a towel on my shoulder. I just walked right back in, right back. And I was like, I'm not going in that hot tub. Oh man, those
This
were like those are
Those
like learning experience that
those guys took bullets for you, man.
Yeah, I know. And then they got mad at me because they
Yeah, of
said I didn't
course.
go in, but I was going. I was going. I just took my
No,
time. But
listen. Tim Hanley was he's a lifetime MLS guy. That guy played with George Best. For those that old school guys on here, Tim has been around forever. He's still in the league coaching. And he loves nothing more than just giving guys a hard time. So
oh
I
yeah,
know that's intimidating for y'all, but I guarantee you he might not even have told anyone about that. He probably just laughed to himself and then went about his
yeah,
business. So well, let's fast forward. So you're on the team. I remember I checked in. The guy said you had a good preseason, but sure enough, season comes around where you end up in Charleston. Talk to me a little bit about. I think this is where you had maybe your first real test of adversity, right? You go down there. It's not where you want to be. But talk to me. Is that the first time you've ever lived away from?
alone.
Okay, so talk us through what this. Talk to me about Mount Pleasant and going to Charleston.
Yeah, I mean, it was a real tough year for me. Obviously, you said living away from home, living away from my mom, was difficult. I didn't know how to cook much. My mom always growing up said, "Hey, you need to come see me cook because one day you're gonna leave and you're gonna need to learn how to cook on your own." And sure did. That year came around, and I'm like, crap. I call my mom every single day probably, to try to help me just cook and try to see what I can make to eat. But on the soccer side of things, it was a little bit difficult because even over there I didn't get a chance. Maybe I had like 17 appearances, but those 17 appearances might have been 5 minutes, 10 minutes, every single game. And that's that whole year, sometimes I doubted myself. Is this really for me? Is this the route that I want to take and become a professional soccer player? I would have many conversations with my mom, my friends, family, to see if they can, motivate me in some type of way. And obviously, I'm very blessed with the support system that I have, that helped me get through those situations. Because I didn't want to be there. I wanted to play. I felt like I deserved a chance over there. At least to prove myself. Maybe if he's not good enough, then maybe hey, okay, he can sit down and play 5-10 minutes. Let the guys that have been here longer play. But those were that year was it was a bad year for me, mentally, physically. I don't know if I was not prepared or maybe it was something that that young kids have to get through and see if they can get through it. Some break, some go through it, and then ultimately I'm here today, and I'm blessed, like I said, with the support system I had that really get me through those times.
Yeah, and then I think it's more about your willingness. Some guys don't even accept that, right? Like, oh, I'm not going, I'm not doing that. I think that's the new MO, right? Is I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
I'm not going down there. I'm not going to this place. Let's talk about when you get back. Um, you come back to the Dynamo, and it's my understanding that at that point they kind of release you from your contract and then kind of turn around and say, we want you to go to, because at the time, for those that don't know, the USL affiliate for the Dynamo was Charleston, but then the next year they opened up Rio Grande Valley, which is down. And when I say South Texas, I mean that's real South Texas. Talk to us a little bit about were you excited about this opportunity, or were you kind of looking at this as like, oh God, here we go again on this round two of not necessarily where I want to be?
Yeah, so I mean, I did the preseason again, with the Dynamo, that year, and then after the preseason's over with, I have a chat with Matt Jordan, and the coach was Owen Coyle at the time, if I'm not mistaken, saying like, "Hey, we're releasing you, but we have a project going on in Rio Grande that we want you to be a part of." And for a second, I was like, here we go again. Maybe I'm gonna stay with no team after this. And they were like, hey, you do well, maybe we'll sign you to another first team contract, um, but only if you do well. So there was really no other option for me. I had to go down there, and then once I was really down there, there was a chip that really turned me on and said, hey, I'm gonna do a good season here, and I'm gonna get back to the Dynamo and really show the qualities that I have to become a first team player and stay here. Thankfully, Wilmer was there.
There's a connection here, right? There you go.
Yeah. So Wilmer was there. He was going to be the first coach. I knew about him just because obviously, Colombia national team. He's coached U.S. soccer national teams as well, youth. Um, and we had a great season. We played great soccer. It was fun. I think there was a period of time where they didn't score a goal on us in like 1,000 minutes or something like that. So we were having a great time down in South Texas, and I was like, hey, I'm doing pretty good during the season. And there was Open Cup games that were going on as well, and some guys would get called up except me. So I think there was 2 or 3 guys that got called up to the Open Cup games with the Dynamo. And I was like, in my head, I'm like, hey, like, I know I'm doing good. And I didn't get the recognition down there. Maybe from the first team, I wasn't doing good enough to get that opportunity. So I was a little bit disappointed, obviously at the time. But like I said, my support system, I would call my mom, hey, like this guy's getting a chance. He's doing well, but I want that chance as well. She was like, you got to keep calm, keep working. And at the end of the year, we made it to the quarters. I think we lost to Oklahoma City, if I'm not mistaken. Had a great season. I think I played most of the games, scored 8 goals, if I'm not mistaken, and a few assists. And then it comes around, Wilmer's appointed head coach of the Dynamo the next year. So I'm hoping for a chance. So I do preseason with the Dynamo, obviously, the next year because So I think it was like eight of us did preseason with the Dynamo that year from the RGV. I did good in preseason. Got a contract again, and that was like all the hard work that I really did. Really paid off. And now is a moment in my career where it's like, hey, like time to step it up and time for you to stay here and really make a name for yourself.
Yeah, and again, I think I'm going to be honest with you. I think it goes back to that. They know you're a consistent performer, right? And that's what they wanted. And Wilmer's got to see that, and it's hard. It's sometimes hard to show that real value. If you're only getting a preseason game here, and you're the second or third string guy in the walkthroughs before, because these coaches are trying to build they're trying to get an idea of what they're going to do with their starters. They're not really given a lot of these, it's hard. It's a hard thing to be on the cusp, man. It's not easy. So I give you a lot of credit for sticking with it. And, I think it's great that these USL guys, you have a coach now that came out of that program, and, they're able to see, the hidden gems that maybe got missed, in the day-to-day stuff of the MLS. Now they're getting an opportunity to see you firsthand. So,
Exactly.
then you get there, Wilmer, he kind of has I guess my question to you is, and I see a lot of people ask you this, and I've heard some mixed reviews on your answer. He played you like that game we talked about where you scored against us. He played you kind of out wide, and you kind of played all over. You are a very utility type guy. Where do you prefer to play? I mean, do you prefer to be in the middle?
Yeah, I definitely prefer to be in the middle. Obviously, I played in the middle everywhere this season. I just like to get on the ball a lot, and I think I'm a pretty good passer, dribbler, and like to get out of tight situations. I want to think I'm a pretty all-around player in the midfield. Get out of different situations and help the team with assists. But I did do, like you said, I did all my career with Wilmer out left. I had my best season out left with him. But I can play both. I can play everything. Top 6 guys, I think I can play. Maybe not forward too much, but I think I could play all the other 5 forward positions on the pitch.
Yeah, and someone can fact check this. And I realize we just talked about you were kind of in Charleston for a season. You were in Rio Grande Valley, RGV. But I actually think you might be the only guy in Houston Dynamo history that played through every coach that's been a coach in MLS. Meaning, you had Dom Kinnear with when you're there early on that we talked about. You had Owen Coyle, Wade Barrett took over as interim. You had Wilmer. You had Davey Arnaud take over as interim. Tab Ramos. Tab ends up putting you back in that middle spot, right? That's where he wants you. and now you got Paulo Nagamura. So as a guy, I always say it's never great to necessarily be on teams that have a lot of turnover, because that usually means that the coaches are moving on for one reason or the other. But how have you handled it? Because I feel like, I hinted at it earlier that like every day you got to prove it. But if every day you got a new coach coming in, and I don't mean every day, but that's a heck of a lot. You played for more coaches at your point in year 24,
26.
26. You're 26. You played for more coaches at 26 than I did at 35, right? So it's hard, right? Like, how do you,
Yeah.
is it go back to it goes back to your, how you prepare? How do you know every year, like, okay, I got a new coach. I got a new coach halfway through the year. I got a new coach all over again. How do you get ready for that transition and stay hungry, I guess?
Yeah, I mean, it's super tough. I mean, because well, later on, like I knew like how the league works and how the business side of things work a little bit. Um, but it always was like, hey, like stay focused and stuff like that. But there's a point where you're like, hey, like new coach coming in, hey, maybe he wants to bring his own players. Maybe you get traded. Uh, maybe you get cut. Maybe you have to go to USL again and prove yourself. So there was always that in the back of my head, and um, trying to do something every year. So every preseason, I try to get in the best shape possible every year, even better than I did before, to prove, because at those points, that, hey, Tab is coming in, or Wilmer was coming in, and you got to prove to these guys that you deserve to stay there, right? But like I said, sometimes it was hard because you didn't know what kind of players they were looking for at the time, because they're building a new team. They want to be successful. Obviously, all the players want to be successful, but they want to keep their jobs as well, and they have to put the best team possible in order for them to get those wins. And and if the team's winning, then obviously, and you're not part of that, then they'll move on from you, of course. And that was always in the back of my head. You have to prepare every day that you're fighting for your job, because like I said, one day or the other you can get traded. But it was a little bit difficult, I would say, and I think a lot of the guys probably could say that as well, that it was a little bit tough just because they know how the league works.
Yeah, no, it's got to be tough, right? Because now it's almost a clean slate for everybody, right? So everybody's got to really ramp it up. You know, um, let's have a little fun. I consider you a Houstonian, meaning it's El Campo, but you really could choose between San Antonio and Houston. You clearly were coming to Houston.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about this rivalry with Dallas. That we talk about Houston having a bunch of great names, guys that went on to do great things. Dallas is the same way. Now you're involved with this Houston Dallas rivalry. I think it's one of the most underrated rivalries in MLS, having been a part of a couple at other places. What can you tell me? Like you seem so chill and you're such a nice guy that I feel like you might not have a bad thing to say about Dallas. But as a guy that's been in these rivalries, how do you feel? How do you feel towards Dallas?
Yeah, I mean, I think just growing up playing in the Dynamo Academy, we grown up not to like them. I didn't like the 5 hour bus ride that we always had to take with the academy, and then driving back the same day. But you learn not to like the team, obviously, and every time I play them, it gives me a little bit of more edge, for a tackle, or something. Sometimes you're like, hey, maybe I'm gonna get a yellow in this game, and show that we're not a soft team, and you always want to show to those guys that it's a rivalry, and that we're not going to take anything for granted, and we're going to show you on the pitch who we really are.
All right, I like that. I like that. Now I'm going to make it even harder on you. You are a Mexican family. You're a Mexican American through and through, right? You have
Yeah.
vocally said that you would accept an offer from either team. Ideally, perfect world, right? You get a choice of either one. How do you? There's been a lot of criticism, and I hate it. I hate the criticism that people give dual citizens, meaning guys that have the options to go play because they earned that right through their ancestors, right?
Yeah.
When you say things like that, do guys give you a hard time about saying Mexico or U.S., or do they want you to choose?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people always ask me like when Mexico plays USA, they're like, "Who are you gonna choose?" Like, and then if I say Mexico, they're like, "Oh, but you were born here, you're born in the USA." And then if I say USA, "Oh, but your family's Mexican," and what are they gonna say about you? But it's tough. It's super tough. I mean, you look at now, and soccer has evolved so much that maybe I'll choose one side more than the other in today.
Yeah. Now, listen, I don't understand how you can live any city in America and not love people from all over. But I mean, my favorite thing that's happened is Canada is just kind of snuck in here and all of a sudden
I know.
are all of a sudden awesome. And it's like, where'd they come from? And
Yeah,
you played with the Jamaican guys and the
yeah,
the Hondurans. And so
exactly.
it's such a diverse place that I love it. I think it's awesome. As I didn't get to this earlier. I meant to ask, as a kid, growing up in El Campo, like when you watch, I feel like everyone, like I doubt, and you can lie to me and tell me it was me, but it's not. I know it wasn't. Like when you watch soccer as a kid, like were you watching Mexican League and trying to look at those players and say like those are the guys I want to emulate, or were you watching MLS, or were you watching England and Spain and saying who are your influences?
Yeah, so for sure. So my stepdad would always watch on Sundays the Mexican League. And I'm a big Club America fan. Maybe a lot of people don't know it, but I'm a big Club America fan. That's who he liked to watch, and that's who I watched. Every single day. I mean, not every single day, every single weekend. And I wouldn't miss a game, so I knew all the players. I knew from the staff to everybody growing up. I didn't miss a game from them. And then obviously, as I started playing competitive soccer in Houston. Is like, oh, there's a Houston team called the Dynamo. Obviously, they're like, hey, maybe. And then that's when I started watching the league a little bit, but I started watching Liga MX way more than I started watching MLS growing up.
Yeah, well, if I had known that, I would have put my Club America shirt out. And I have these shirts. I have this shirt out because, I played so many games in Concacaf. I was fortunate to be on some really good teams, and it was crazy because I would ask these guys to trade. I love trading jerseys because, I don't remember. I remember the game and the rivalry, but like I really cherish these jerseys. And I played for coaches that had a huge problem with me trading, especially in games that we didn't win. But for me, and I played some guys in Mexico, and they came to the U.S. and played, and they refused to trade, saying, "Hey, I can't. Like, it's just not
Yeah.
accepted. Like, it's a cultural thing." And I don't know. I think it's interesting now that looking at our league and these big Mexican superstars are coming here, and you've got one on your team now. That's it's incredible to me that a guy came from Atletico Madrid, captain of the Mexican national team, is now playing in Houston. I didn't want to go too far into that, but what's
Yeah.
that been like for you? Because I never played with somebody of that stature in terms of notoriety and what his resume looks like.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, I watched Porto. I watched all those leagues. So I knew about him because I follow the Mexican national team as well. And him being part of our team, it was like, wow, like a player like that is coming to our team, and he's come from two big clubs in Europe, and you can see his quality in training. You're like, wow, like maybe maybe I'm good at what I do, obviously, because I'm a professional soccer player. But maybe to get to that next level, maybe I got to step it up a notch. If I want to do one day go to Europe or to Mexico and play. Um, and he's made our team better, obviously, and with his quality that he brings, and he's also a leader, and he's a super nice guy to everybody. He speaks to everybody. Sometimes you think, oh, those players come from European soccer, and you're like, oh, they're gonna think they have an ego or anything, but no, he speaks to everybody. He's super chill, and he's a leader. On the pitch and off the pitch, he's always vocal in what he wants to accomplish and what we want to accomplish together as a team.
Well, no, he's yeah, it's incredible. I think it's also incredible that he wears jean shorts that are the same size as my wife's. I love these.
There's a lot of guys like that in our locker room.
I know there's a lot of guys like that in the league now. It happened before I left, and I love jean shorts, so I'm a big you know uh, Arrested Development for those fans out there that know what never nudes are. That's getting a little off subject. Let's talk about. I mentioned earlier we talked about Eric Bruner and Twitch. You are probably the biggest gamer that I can think of in terms of, especially for the Dynamo, maybe in the league. You built a pretty good name for yourself, and that's a cool brand in terms of being a guy that plays video games. I know you've done tournaments and charitable things with it. Talk a little bit about, do you have, a lot of these people don't understand gaming and they don't understand Twitch or what that is. Can you just tell people like what, one, what Twitch is, and two, what are your favorite games? Like, do you play all games or just a couple of games?
No, I play a couple of games, and Twitch is obviously a streaming platform that you can play games and also have a webcam on and broadcast yourself while you're playing that game. So it was pretty cool. I mean, I watched Twitch every day for a little bit just to see like your favorite streamers, and I got an idea before, I think just right before the pandemic happened. I started buying stuff. I was like, hey, maybe it gives me something to do. So I did it for a bit. I streamed, like you said, I did some charitable things and just try to get engaged with fans from the Dynamo or from all around the world, just because sometimes, you're at the stadium, they ask for your jerseys or ask for a signature, and maybe you can't get across everybody. And maybe it was something for me just to reach out. Like they have a live chat that they can, comment whatever they want. And I can speak to them. So just being engaged with fans and the community of Houston and like I said, around the world, it was something that I wanted to do. And I didn't do it too much for 2 years because we were losing, and I was like, I didn't want them to think that I'm prioritizing gaming. And we're losing.
Wilmer is that guy that would have judged you for that. So that was probably
exactly. So he was definitely one of the guys, and I was like, just the way he like carried himself and carried the team sometimes, I was like, definitely not going to stream probably this year for not doing well. And for sure, he was definitely a part of why I didn't stream that year. I didn't want people to think that I prioritized that and not focus on game.
Well, it's interesting because the teams themselves in the league prioritizes esports now, and a lot of people are confused by it. Have you, and again, this will be the last gaming question we have, but I think it's interesting because it is a part of our world, and I think it's going to grow even more. I have 3 children, so I know the importance of games. For the esports stuff, have you had the opportunity? Let's talk FIFA, because I think FIFA, would you say FIFA is probably one of your best games?
No, I think it would be the least, to be honest. I don't play. I don't play FIFA really at all. I don't own the game. I know how to play the game, but I don't play it.
I had that wrong. I thought you were the Dynamo rep for that when you did the tournaments.
No, I did do the tournaments because I was like the only gamer kind of on the team.
Okay.
And I know how to play the game. I'm not great at it, but I know what I'm doing. I'm a more like a Call of Duty type of guy, Fortnite.
That's
and
what I was
another game called Apex.
What I was going to ask was, Stuart Holden was a very good gamer. He went to, national world tournaments for, oh God, I can't remember. It was a war game with 5 people. Anyway, for you, I was going to ask for these FIFA guys, people play FIFA or people play these games. Like, what's the level? Like, is it Sunday League versus Real Madrid, like your level versus the pros, or is it a little more even in terms of playing these really good players?
Yeah, I mean, it depends. Like when we had so whenever I just enter tournaments, sometimes on like Call of Duty, sometimes on the weekend. Not now, obviously, because I have a kid and I can't play as long as I can.
Sure. Yeah. Go ahead. Keep going.
You know about it.
Keep going.
So I would enter into these tournaments and think, like, hey, this is going to be pretty easy, and you're in a group of 4 guys, but there's 2 guys with you, so you're teammates of 2, but you're on a team of 4, and I'm like, hey, this is going to be easy. I play all the time. I'm gonna, me and my teammate are gonna blow these 2 guys up in Call of Duty, and we get smacked, and I'm like, maybe I need to keep on playing, and I play a lot. I played a lot, so I was like, I'm very good at the game, but these guys were on a different level. Like you said, Champions League, and then it's like Sunday League, and I was in the Sunday League for sure. But there's definitely there's
say
different levels to it.
it's like poker, right? You think you're good until you play someone who is good, and then you say, I'm not very good. So the
Exactly.
game I was
It's just
thinking
like
for
that.
Stuart it's called Counter-Strike for those
Counter-Strike,
Counter-Strike
yeah,
fans.
yeah. Got you.
You talked a lot about just to highlight, you're a very charitable guy. You've done things with USO, multiple children's charities, and MD Anderson. I got to give them a shout because Val gets mad if I don't. MD Anderson Cancer Center. That's but you're very charitable with your time. I think that's awesome. I think that's, when I say to people you're a really good dude. You're putting your time out there for people that are less willing, or you're giving back to your community. You mentioned starting a family of your own with your little boy. And then I want to kind of focus on this. You talked a little bit about your mom and the commitment she's made to you. I saw a thing in The Athletic about something that you were hoping to do for her. I think you made this statement before you had your family now, but talk to people and what you hope to achieve in terms of giving her. I can't remember the name of the place, but it's like a drive-through.
Yeah, so it was always a dream of hers. Like when you go to Mexico, you see them everywhere. It's like an open barn. So it's like an open barn, and they have like big refrigerators on each side. And then obviously, if you have a kitchen in that side, inside that barn, then she wants to make food as well. And it's something that she's always dreamed of. And we're looking for places now back home to see where we can start the business, because she wants to start working and doing something for her, and it's something that she always wanted in her life. And it's super convenient. There's a lot of lazy people that don't want to get off at convenience stores to get a Snickers or a drink. All you have to do is, it's like just a drive-through store, just with the added, she'll cook. If there's a kitchen, she'll cook the food that she makes on the weekends, and that's something I want to get started for her, and we're definitely looking for places back home to get that started.
That's so cool, man. I know you're like a lot of people, they say they want a house or they want a car, and you're like, your mom's like, I want this
Yeah.
this concept that we don't have here. I want to bring it here. So I think that's awesome. So Memo, listen, I feel like I've known you for a decade because I have known you for longer than a decade. You're a reminder, one, that I'm old, but you're also a reminder that there's some young, talented, and really good people in this world. And I'm happy to have been a small part of your journey early in your life. And I'm thankful now for you letting me tell your story to the listeners about your journey up until this point. So I wish you luck going forward. With soccer, hopefully national teams are in your future. It sounds like maybe Europe or Mexico is a dream as well. I wish you luck with all that, and vamos Estados Unidos. But that's Memo Rodríguez, everybody. Thank you for coming on the podcast today.
Thank you, Bobby. I mean, it was great having conversation with you, and telling everybody a little bit of my story, and you were part of it as well. So I'm glad you were a part of it as well.
Awesome. Thank you, Memo.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Play by Players. Visit playbyplayerspod.com for more episodes, or subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. This has been a production of the MLSPA. Learn more at mlsplayers.org.